Good afternoon and welcome to the Outreach Technology for Houses of Worship webinar with Roland, Canada. My name is James and I will be your host for this afternoon. Today we'll be hearing from Russell Williams, the National Sales Manager with Roland, Canada. He will show us how Roland Professional AV products can help enhance and expand your ministries. But before I do that, I want to fill you in on a few details. First, we'll be recording the webinar and posting it to our YouTube channel by tomorrow. You can find our channel by searching Networks Audio Video in the YouTube search bar. Also, if you have any questions during the presentation, please enter them in the Q&A chat anytime during this webinar, and we'll do our best to answer them at the end of the presentation. Now, let's begin. Outreach technology is something that we're going to be discussing, and so we're going to start off by looking at an overview of this. So we'll go through an introduction, we'll go through what outreach technology is, followed by a presentation by Roland Canada, and where they'll be discussing available technologies that can help and enhance your ministries, and then we'll go through the questions and answers at that point. So in this webinar, we'll be exploring technologies that bring impact and stimulate growth of outreach ministries. Our focus has been to help our customers with technology that makes our lives better, and we continue that focus today in the face of adversity. What can harm us can also strengthen us. Today, we're going to look at how we can make our lives better where we are, and with the times as we see them progressing in the coming years. Today, we're going to explore outreach technology. What is outreach technology? Outreach is a vital part of any house of worship, as the Great Commission is to spread the word. Whether this is achieved by discipling people and sending them out or by broadcasting your messages, there are technologies that can help you spread the word and stay connected to those within your circle. For a moment, imagine a world without the internet. Imagine a world without television or without radio. Without technologies like radio, television, and the internet, outreach ministries would look much like they did before these technologies existed. Today, we benefit from these technologies in our daily lives and harness them to enhance our outreach ministries. Some examples of outreach technology throughout the past decades include audio recordings, video recordings, podcasts, and of course, radio and TV broadcasts. Today's outreach ministries incorporate social media and live streaming, video prayer meetings, online teaching, and online youth events. Every few years, your outreach ministry grows in ways that were unimaginable before. This is partially due to continuous advancement in electronics and what we like to call outreach technology. And now, I would like to introduce to you Russell Williams.
Get set up quickly. Everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Thank you. James, thank you for that introduction. Yes, my name is Russell Williams. I am the National Sales Manager for Roland Pro AV. It's actually a division of Roland Canada Limited. I am currently based out of our Vancouver office. With me today is Dave Maticio, our sales engineer. He is based out of our Toronto office. He will be monitoring the general chat and answering any questions you may have during the presentation. So please don't hold back. You'll probably be more familiar with the musical instrument side of our company and perhaps less familiar with our video side. Hopefully today I can change that and inform you more of our video lineup. A few facts about Roland Pro AV, which I would like to point out. We do stock our inventory locally in Canada. This means dealers and end users do not have to wait long periods of time for something to come in. Now, of course, with COVID-19, demand and supply have been challenging in the past few months, but by October, we should be caught up, especially with our very popular VR1 HD switcher. We also service all our equipment locally. Our primary service center is in Richmond Hill, and we have service centers across Canada. Another fun fact, 95% of Roland's video products are hand built in Japan to very high standards. So today I'm going to be covering a few topics. We will start with a quick overview of our production switches relevant to houses of worship, followed by video streaming switches, and finally covering some PTZ support. Now, I'm not going to dig too deeply into every model. We don't really have enough time for that. I will just cover some of the more important features that would benefit a house of worship. There are some key points that apply to all the switches I will cover today. Namely, they all have a version of chroma key or luma key that can be used for graphic overlays or green screens of some kind. They are all capable of 1080p or greater. They all support HDCP, that stands for High Bandwidth Digital Content Protection. This is a form of digital copy protection, and you should keep that in mind when you choose to stream videos. All our Roland firmware updates are free. Oftentimes, these will provide new features and upgrades to you at no cost. All dedicated Roland RCS software is also free. All switches use our high-end audio components that Roland is well known for. All switches have T-bars that offer that traditional switching experience. That is with the exception of our actual streaming switches. So here's a quick layout of the 6 switches that I've chosen to present to you today that will be applicable to the houses of worship market. Firstly, our little entry-level switcher. It is a 2-in, 2-out HDMI switcher that retails for $840. It has full scaling on both the inputs and the outputs. So for example, the typical scenario would be a 2-camera or a 2-computer or a 1-camera and a 1-computer that can be used for tiling effects. It has iPad RCS software, which you can use to control the unit. Give me a second, I'll show that to you in a moment. And it also comes with a foot switch controller option. Now you may ask, why would I need a foot switch? Sometimes a camera person who has to have 2 cameras in his hands can't operate both sufficiently with his hands focused really on one unit. So we allow the use of switching via a foot switch. As I mentioned, all the inputs and outputs have scaling. That makes this a really great problem solver. Why is that? It means that we can bring in a 720 or a 1080 or a 1080p or a 1080i or a 720i, 720p, and we can mix those inputs without any visual degradation and transmit them again. So this is what our iPad software looks like. It's a fantastic GUI for interfacing with the unit. It allows for easy access to all the features, including audio, which you cannot see traditionally on the front. As you can see, we have options for audio effects. We have options to set up each individual channel. You have faders that you can use to adjust your audio. So this makes it a nice interactive software package to allow you to easily use the unit. Next up is the V1 HD. The V1 HD is a portable 4-channel switcher with 4 in and 2 HDMI channels. This retails for about $1,400. The two HDMI outs are for preview and output. Unfortunately, there's no scaling with this model. This means that you have to choose whether you're going to be running at 720 or 1080p, and all devices coming in need to be the same resolution. With the recent firmware, we introduced a new feature called auto scan for hands-free switching. This will enable you to, for example, set up a scheduled or timed switch. Therefore, you can set up the unit in the back of your church. You don't have to have a volunteer running the unit, and it can be set up to simply change the input after every so seconds, quick up to 4 seconds, right up to 30 seconds if you choose so. And as I mentioned, all these units have luma key and chroma key. There is also RCS software for this unit, which is controlled via Mac and PC. The V1 SDI, similar in size, This is a 4-channel SDI switcher with 3 SDI and 2 HDMI inputs, with 2 SDI and 1 HDMI output for multi-view. Now, channel 3 actually shares resources with HDMI and SDI. So you can run this in a number of modes. Firstly, you can be running 3 SDI and 1 HDMI, or you can be running it in 2 SDI and 2 HDMI. Input 4 is also scalable. So this means you can bring in any resolution device up to 1080p and scale it to your needs for your particular presentation. Once again, this has PC and Mac software. SDI. So what is SDI? SDI is a serial digital interface. This really is a cable technology which allows you to run those longer cable runs before degradation, much longer than HDMI. So if you have a longer or larger church that wants to be able to run cables from the front to the back without losing quality, this is the level you would be looking at. Typically, this is considered a pro interface, and your more advanced cameras would come with support for this technology. Next up, the V8 HD. This is one of our newest switches. It is an 8-in and 3-out HDMI that retails for $2,800. This unit has a built-in multi-view screen, which means no need for a dedicated monitor to view what is happening on your inputs. It is not a touchscreen. 3 of your outputs can be assigned to, for example, features for recording, live streaming, confidence monitor, and they can all be done independently. They don't have to be the same. You can even assign one of the outputs as a multi-view. This is also the first unit that we have that has an auxiliary bus, which allows you to send out a dedicated signal to, for example, a confidence monitor, which will be independent of your program. This unit also comes with a new feature for triggering field recording via Atomos field recorders. It is also compatible with foot switches for assisted hands-free switching. With the recent firmware update that came out a few weeks back, it now has 24 memory presets. This allows you to, for example, set up different scenarios that can be used for different types of sermons, or even, for example, the same sermon where you want to have different appearance at different times. And this makes it very simple to do that, preset it up, and to record it very quickly during a sermon. On this unit, inputs 7 and 8 have scaling. You're also able to store up to 8 images for each channel. So, for example, you could have a prayer text image that you could set up and preset up, record, and have ready to cue during a sermon. It could also be a photo. It could also be a logo, depending on your needs. This is also our lowest cost switcher with simultaneous dual picture-in-picture. This means that you can have 2 picture-in-pictures up at the same time during a presentation or sermon. This unit also has 5 composition layers. This means that you can take 5 sources and use them as multiple layering effects to create a much more professional looking presentation. This unit also comes with iPad software control, which I can show to you here. So what you're seeing now is a replication of the front of the unit, except for the screen built in. And of course, the T-bar is actually present. You can use the T-bar with your finger on an iPad. The beauty of using this type of software with Roland is that you can quickly assign, for example, your picture-in-picture. So here we have a typical layout where you would pre-set up your picture-in-picture positioned in a screen. However, with a simple touch of a finger, I can actually move this around and reposition it. I can also resize by using 2 fingers. This is a much more intuitive interface than using the traditional on-screen settings or going through the unit directly on the interface. Next up is our Roland V60. This is a very, very popular switcher for churches. Previously really more for production needs rather than streaming, but it is still a very popular unit even today with the COVID situation. The V60, it's a 4 SDI, 2 HDMI input. Input 6 shares resources with an RGB input, so this allows you to use some backward technology. You can bring in an old device that may have used VGA input, for example, and still have the ability to directly import that into the system. Both the HDMI and RGB inputs have scaling. This unit retails for 4,300 Canadian. It has a dedicated HDMI multi-view output, 2 HDMI and 2 SDI outputs. There are lots of output options here and choices. For example, these can be programmed for program, preview, and the auxiliary bus. As I mentioned before, the auxiliary bus is an independent output that you can assign to, for example, a confidence screen. This unit also comes with professional grade interface, including audio. It has 4 phantom powered XLR and TRS inputs for direct interfacing with your existing audio system. It also has a stereo line out as well as XLR left and right out. It also now comes with audio auto mix features. This allows you to automatically adjust your audio levels on the fly by presetting the unit and allowing it to control the audio for you. This is truly a live production system. It can also be controlled over a network with RCS software. This unit is also the entry level that will allow us to interface with PDZ camera control over a network environment. Finally, in this lineup, we have our V600 UHD 4K multi-format video switcher. This is our premier switcher, which retails for 16,000 Canadian. It is expensive, but there are some very good features and benefits with this unit. Firstly, there are 4 HDMI and 2 SDI inputs, as well as 1 RGB input for backwards technology. There are 3 HDMI and 1 SDI outputs, as well as a dedicated HDMI multi-view. So this means that you won't be sacrificing an output to get multi-view on this unit. The LAN port on this unit is used for networkable control, as well as PDZ camera control. This unit also now introduces region of interest. What is region of interest? Well, region of interest is the ability to take one 4K input and reassign or assign individual 1080p or lower resolution portions of that image and assign them as an input on the unit. This means you can take one 4K image and assign it to the 7 inputs and create, for example, 7 virtual cameras. So in an environment where you, for example, have a limited budget, but you have big plans in the future for a fantastic system that would not only work for your church internally, but also externally, and you're looking for an upgrade path that'll suit you for a long time, this is something you should consider. This will allow you to begin with 1 camera and 1 unit and present a full professional looking production. As of today, we've also launched a new feature which expands on the region of interest, which is called automatic ROI. This firmware was actually launched today and is available for download. So what is automatic ROI? We've collaborated with Canon on this particular venture. And what this does is it integrates with their facial tracking technology built into their cameras and turns really this region of interest into a camera or tracking camera that will follow the subject around as they move. Why is this important? Well, with this technology now, you can set up, again, multiple views, multiple positioning from one image, but have a camera stay in focus at all times and track a subject as they move. We all know that somebody on a podium is never standing dead still. They will move a little bit to the left and right, and having the camera stay on them is very important. This unit also has left and right XLR in and out to interface with your existing audio. It also has dual picture-in-picture, as well as an auxiliary bus. Here is a quick view of the back of each unit, just for your eyes. So as you can see, the back of the VO2, 2 inputs and 2 outputs with the control EXP for foot control. The V1HD with the RCA in and out for audio, your 4 inputs, your preview and your program out, and your USB interface for iPad control, sorry, for PC control. And as you know, this unit does not have any scaling. The V1 SDI with the 3 SDI input ports, as you can see there. And as you see here with this number 3 that spans both these inputs, this is where it's sharing resources. You have to choose between SDI or HDMI. The V8 HD with its impressive multiple units of HDMI input, 8 in and 3 out. Your TRS audio, so this is your foot control switches. This unit actually expands on the foot control switch and allows you to use 2 at the same time. So they can be assigned different features, for example, to switch or even change your switching effects. And your V60, as you can see, as you move up in each model, the back of the unit becomes more involved and it offers more features. So here we see the XLR inputs, the SDI inputs, the HDMI outputs, the backwards compatible VGA, and of course your audio out again. Something I did not mention, which is not really relevant, but it does have the ability to do wireless tally system where you are able to see a light on a camera. When a camera is live, it changes red. You can see which camera to focus on. And of course the V600. Now, some of you are probably asking me, why am I showing you these switches that do not stream? Well, the answer is, we do have streaming options. This is a brand new product that was launched or announced back in July. This is a 4K video scaler with streaming capabilities. Now, it is a very expensive unit for most churches. It does retail at $4,200 Canadian dollars. This is an estimate retail as the unit hasn't started shipping. We expect shipping to start in November. So what is unique about this unit? Well, firstly, it's 4K. It has a 1 by SDI input, as you can see in the back of the unit there, 1 by HDMI input for 4K. Now these are expanded with in and out options and throughput. And there's also a reference in, out, and throughput, as well as LAN control. This means you can control it over a network. Then, of course, you can see on the back of the unit, bring it a little bit closer for you, the USB 3 interface for streaming. What does this mean to you? Well, here's an example of how this can be run. With an input of a 4K or HD, we can be, from this unit, outputting to a LED wall, for example, that could be within the church. It will have a sub-process that be going to a second screen, which could be positioned anywhere within the church or in a studio, or even in the vestibule of the church where we may want to have overflow. There is also, at the same time, the ability to USB stream to the web via a PC. Now, just to clarify on when we call something streaming. So what we enable is USB 3 to a computer. What the computer then does is it actually reads that as a webcam, making the connection very simple and easy to use. The added bonus of that is that all your audio and video inputs are now being handled off the computer itself. They've all been integrated, they've all been adjusted and changed to according to your needs before it even hits the unit to go to web or your computer to go to web. So all of that is taken away from you. All of that processing power from your computer is freed up. However, there are other solutions available. Here is an example of some third-party devices that you can use to stream. They are simple HDMI to USB 3 converters. I believe James can provide some more information on that. Has some stock. I just picked some representations, and if you can still see my webcam, here's a quick example of the size of the little silver unit that is on the screen.
Yep, and we stock that as well.
Excellent. So there are options to quickly take those switches I just presented and bring them into a computer for USB webcam recognition straight to web. Now for Roland's streaming switches. In the lineup, we have 3 models. I'll start with our entry-level and most popular unit today. The Vero 1 HD is currently our most popular unit. We cannot keep enough in stock. Every shipment comes in, it goes out the door again, and we are struggling to keep up with demand. This unit is so popular. As I mentioned, by October, this will change, and we will be caught up in manufacturing enough to keep up for local needs. This unit retails for roughly 630 Canadian. Why is it so popular? It is packed with professional audio and video features for live content creation. But this doesn't mean that it can't be used in a church environment. It has 3 scalable HDMI inputs with pass-through on the third, so we cannot tie up one of the inputs. Again, they're scalable. This means you can bring in a signal from a camera. You can bring in a signal from an iPad, for example, which I'm doing right now. I can show you that again. This is it directly from my iPad. Computer, camera, iPad, camera, iPhones even, for example. You can scale up the screen on that to fit your screen for the stream. It has one main, one monitor output, all HDMI. Again, these are designed with the content creator in mind so they can see their stream directly in front of them before it goes to web. USB 3 again connection for streaming. It also has a very large on-air button, which I think is a little bit out of focus here, which allows you to quickly see when your unit is actually streaming to web or streaming to your computer. When you hit that button, the light goes out and it cuts the audio and video feed. With this unit, we also introduced the video follow audio, which I'll cover in a moment. It was R&D'd with this unit. This unit comes with auto switching features, for example, beat sync switching. That is the ability to actually have your switching, your input switching change according to the beat of your music. It also has the ability to do time switching, where it'll go in sequential steps. It'll change in a time process between each input, and you can also randomize that as well. The unit does come with some audio effects, which may not be that useful for the church environment, but they can be fun. For example, there's audio effects built in for a voice changer, background music, a stinger, and a reverb. A stinger is where you want to cue a sound very quickly. Now, these can all be reassigned to be all the same. For example, you could have multiple background music. You can have music that is playing, for example, in the background before your stream starts, before you bring a camera live, while people are waiting to join, or before you bring up your live stream. And you can have the same going out. You can have music that plays as your image fades off from the web. It also has, as you can see on the top of the unit, 3 dedicated sliders to control your audio. This is for your microphone 1, microphone 2, and your line N. So you can be feeding your instrument source from your audio console that is already positioned in your church, and tie that in with your feed going out to web. Next up from there, we have the VR4 HD. This is a 4-channel, 6-input AV switcher, which retails for roughly $3,600. It has a built-in touchscreen. This means there's no need for a dedicated external monitor. And because it's a touchscreen, you can actually use it for streaming. This is very convenient. It is a very flexible unit with HDMI, RGB component, and composite video inputs on the back. And I'll show you that in a moment. This means that you are very backwards compatible. If somebody has old technology, or if you have older technology that you need to integrate into this unit, we have inputs available for that. And on input 4, which shares all of these input options, it has scaling as well. With the recent firmware update, we also added video follows audio and beat sync switching. As you can see from the front of the unit, it's a little bit grainy. We do have dedicated faders for all your individual audio channels. For most of them, really, there are 18 digital audio mixer channels, including XLR, TRS, RCA, and of course, like all the switches, there is audio coming in through SDI as well as HDMI, and you have the ability to change that or adjust your needs as you go. It is, of course, USB 3 streaming and has RCS software for PC as well. Now, the flagship and the most favorite unit, long-standing unit that we have is the VR50. The VR50 is a 12-input, 4-channel switcher retailing for $9,000. This is a long-standing favorite within houses of worship that have taken the route of being able to present a production back in a church as well as stream to web. It was originally launched in 2013 and was updated last year to the Mark II, which is what you see in front of you now. This unit, it has all the bells and whistles. It is the ultimate versatile system. Some of the upgrades that were put into this unit are superior or upgraded audio board. It now comes on auxiliary output on aux bus. It has automatic audio mixing. It has an updated user interface, and now also has direct control of PTZ cameras over LAN, which the previous model did not offer. There are 4 SDI, 4 HDMI, 2 composite, 2 component inputs, a total of 12. Now, although you cannot actively see all 12 units at the same time, you can populate all 12 at the same time. So you can have every unit populated, and with a quick push of a button on the front of the unit, you will be able to see on the screen the input source that you've selected, whether it's SDI, composite component, or HDMI, and be able to queue that up before you need to switch that selected input. This expands your options significantly. On the output side, there are 2 SDI for program and auxiliary. There are 3 HDMI outputs, multi-view program and auxiliary again, and then also RGB composite program out and auxiliary out. There are also 4 still stores, which allow you to, again, queue up either a picture, a photo, or a picture of or a scan of a prayer that you may want to present on a screen locally, or even stream to web. On the audio side, we have 4 Phantom XLR TRS inputs, 2 TRS mic line inputs, 2 RCA left and right audio inputs, XLR left and right, auxiliary RCA, auxiliary. I'm going through a lot here on this unit. There is so much packed on the back of this model. Auxiliary 2, monitor, TRS audio out. Again, for remote control access, we have USB, LAN, RS-232 remote options. It has a larger built-in screen than the VR4 HD, and as I mentioned, has USB 3 streaming. And this unit now also has video follows audio. On top of that, there's also 4-layer composition for more professional presentation. Here's a quick look at the back of each unit for your reference. You'll note on the smaller units, just because of retail space, a lot of the inputs are now moved to the side. So the VR1 HD actually has a secondary microphone input, which is also TRS, phantom powered, on the side of the unit for that second microphone, line in and line out RCA if you need to feed in that source from your console. Again, with the VR4 HD, as I mentioned before, on input 4, you have multiple choices of inputs. So backward compatibility with component, composite, and HDMI. They're scalable. We have our audio in left and right, XLR, and then audio out again. We have that's the output. And on the input on the side of the unit, we have the 4 XLRs on the side, which are also TRS compatible. USB 3 for your streaming. finally, the VR50. Just for reference, I was trying to cover as much of that as possible just because there's so many inputs there. This is the most flexible unit. It does come with a price tag, but will future-proof you for a long, long time. So as I said, I would cover video follows audio. Why is this important in a church environment? Well, primarily because you can have your streaming switcher. Again, this is for the VR1 HD, the VR4 HD, and the VR50 HD. You can set the unit up to change the video source by the audio source when it senses input. So for example, you can assign microphone 1 to input 1. When microphone 1 senses audio, the switcher will automatically switch to camera 1. They can be reassigned. It can be any camera that you may have. And again, for microphone 2, when it picks up audio, it will switch to camera 2. However, if both microphones are picking up audio, you can then also assign it to do a third camera shot, which might be a wide, or it could be a side-by-side headshot. Very, very unique feature that we have and very useful for hands-free auto switching. PTZ, pan, tilt, zoom. What are the benefits of this technology? Well, specifically important now with the COVID situation, there is no need for a camera person on every camera. They can be remote controlled. It is easy to create and record presets for maximum coverage, and they can be installed out of sight. This graphic shows you the current compatibility list of PTZ cameras and the models they're compatible with. So here is the lineup. The V60 HD, as I mentioned, is compatible with the JVC, Panasonic, Sony, PTZ Optics, and Avonix. The XS62, which we didn't cover today, is actually the twin or the sister to the V60 HD, and this is a rack mount version with a couple of additional inputs that allow you to expand the unit further and also turn it into a matrix switcher. The VR50, as I mentioned, with a recent upgrade, version 2.0, which came out, I believe, a few days ago, is now compatible with Sony, PTZ, and Avonix, but it is currently compatible with JVC and Panasonic. I believe, James, you support both those brands?
Yes, and I actually use a VR50. That's what I'm using now, and I can control both Panasonic and JVC, and it's quite seamless to do.
At the same time?
Yeah.
And the V600, of course, again, with version firmware 2, this will be able to expand to other units, but is currently, well, actually, I lied. That today is not compatible with all these models. So that was launched today. Lastly, the unit that I put in there is the V1200 HD. This unit has been utilized in churches, churches that have a bigger budget, have more floor space, that are running IMAG systems. So we can cater for that level of technology. This can be restaurant controlled. It is up there. I mean, for that unit alone, we're looking at about 23,000. I didn't think it was worth covering today. But if anybody is interested, they can speak to James and we can go from there and do some direct one-on-one talking on that unit. I wanted to quickly show you, this is specific to our V60 switcher. This is actually the software interface for the unit. This is what you're presented over your computer. The beauty about this is actually it's over a network. So with your cameras and your switcher, they can be, the unit itself can be in a control room or in a back room where all the cable hardware is running to, but you can control this system from anywhere within the church or anywhere within the network. And you can control the faders. You have immediate access to all levels of audio. Another example of using this is that if you have one person who's focused on switching only, and you can also have, then you can then have a second person should you choose, focused on audio only, so that they can actually monitor audio as it goes out back into the venue or back to your stream through a USB connector. And on the side is an example here of what the interface looks like to set up a PDZ camera. This is this is the GUI interface which looks the best. The Vero50 actually uses the on-screen touchscreen to control the cameras, so it's slightly different. And the V600 is controlled over a web interface. But as you can see, let me get a little bit closer, try and help you see that more clearly. As you can see, multiple camera support, camera presets. So there's 8 camera presets for every camera, all 6 cameras. You can manually position them. You can zoom in, zoom out. You can do your focusing. You can adjust your exposure or go straight to manual. And then, of course, it will support tele should you be wanting to use that technology. So if there are any questions we need to answer, we're happy to do so right now. If you can, I haven't seen chat come through, but I also put up on the screen while we're doing some Q&A for some resources that you can access from Roland. There's our global website. There's our Facebook page, our YouTube channel, as well as our service division. We have a website where you can actually directly contact our service division if you ever needed repairs. I can tell you honestly that we have very few models or very few switches that actually need repair. I think, Dave, if you can confirm, I think most of the repairs we've needed is an accident during shipping.
Oh, that sounds about right.
So out of the box, you're in good state to have a unit that will be up and running within minutes.
So I guess while we're waiting to see if there's any questions rolling in, I have one as well too, and I'm wondering if you could just take a moment. Let's say if I want to do titling, and let's say on one of the mixers, and I want to be able to have this titling show on my live stream, because I want to say on there that it is maybe something about the message or something about a Bible verse or somebody's name that I want to show underneath the on the bottom portion of the screen, but I don't want to like put the image on top of and then block everything else. I still want my video to pass. I just want to show that bottom titling. How might I do that on one of the switchers? And maybe mention a model of a switcher that you're referring to as well.
Well, actually, as I mentioned in the beginning, every system I've shown you today is capable of doing that in one form or another. So I'll start with LumaKey, which maybe that term may be a little bit less familiar. LumaKey is the ability to key out either white or black. So what that means is, for example, if you wish to have a title on your screen, the unit itself has the capacity to eliminate or remove black or white. So for example, if you wanted a white title at the bottom of your screen, first of all, you would create that screen. It could be Photoshop, it could be a graphic design program, and that would then be used, a channel would be used as an input to feed it back into the switcher. And you would set it up, and then what the switcher would do then is when you key up when you hit the key button, and I'll give an example, the VO2, the entry-level unit has this feature. It has LumaKey. You can then queue up the input, hit the button, and it will then key out all the black, and all you will see is the white text overlaid on your screen. The next level up from there is actually chroma key, which is more advanced and allows you to key out a specific color. Now, as we all know, we've seen on TV in all those movies, they have that super bright green color they use to do that effect. We don't need to go to that level. Right now, actually, I'm just using software to do it. I haven't really set it up in the Vero 1 HD at this point, but that expands the ability to what you can key. So now, instead of being limited to a black or white as a foreground or as the text, you now expand that to enable colors. So you pick a unique color that is not within your logo, that you are not using, For example, that super bright green, you assign that color as the color to key out or to remove. And again, you have a computer with it could be a graphic program, it could be a specific program for that need, and you would send that complete signal to the input of the switcher. You've preset up the fact that it's going to key out a specific color, and as soon as you enable the key button, the graphic will come up. In the case of chroma key, with all the graphics that you've chosen, all the colors that you've chosen, and it'll have that color keyed out. Bearing in mind that this process does take up one channel, but it allows you to be more flexible and actually you don't have to be stuck with one screen. You can have multiple screens set up to be queued during a sermon. So once
as Russell had mentioned earlier as well, on something like the V8, with so many inputs that you can, or with so many stills that you can load, if you did that chroma keying the Lumi keying and you got everyone perfect, basically now you could just bounce between inputs and have many different titles going throughout the presentation without loading them one by one. Once you've keyed it once, you know that all of the criteria you use for that is going to work for all of your getting rid of all of the black out of the white or the white out of the black. So you can just basically fly between them.
Yeah. And what about if you're using, let's say, PowerPoint, and you have, let's say, 6 pages or 8 pages because you already know what's going to take place? You could do maybe something with, the same background all the way through, the same sort of banner all the way through, the same sort of titling style, and then just flip through your pages, and then just turn on or turn off that overlay by doing your
it's the downscale keying. That's what you'll see on a lot of our units, DSK. That's exactly what you would be doing. You could toggle between it with the tap of the button, bring it in, bring it out, just with that simple tap. And you could just be queuing your pages from your laptop right beside you, right when the next page is ready. You need to skip back, whatever. It's not going to look sloppy. It'll be in the background. Second, you want to see that image again, you press your one key, you're right back there with your overlay.
And I guess circling back as well, I did want to mention, I know you mentioned about how there's some high popularity on a number of models. We've anticipated some of that, and so what we've done for this webinar, we made sure that we had inventory. So we do have inventory on SKUs like the very popular VR1 HD, the VR4 HD. We also have V8 HDs as well in stock.
You're one of the few people right now.
Yeah. We wanted to make sure, because if we're going to be showing this information to you, we want to make sure that it's available to you, that you don't have to wait, 3 weeks, maybe 6 weeks, maybe more than that. So
very good. Absolutely. That's good news.
So we don't see any questions at this point. And I think at this point then, if there's nothing else, we can, I guess we'll just wait another minute to see if there's anything else.
I'll just quickly mention, guys, there's another thing. In Ontario, in Toronto, where we have our office, our office is basically, we call it the office, but it's an inspiration center where we have lots and lots of this equipment, as James can attest to. He's came in and visit us there. Unfortunately, with the COVID stuff going on right now, the offices are closed probably for the rest of the year. But moving forward, this stuff can be tested in real time. If you wanted to bring in cameras, any piece of gear you ever want to sit down and have some time with before purchasing or anything like that, we do have a space that is fully equipped for all of your needs, where you can come and check out anything you need to. You would basically just make an appointment with me, and then you've got me for as long as it takes that day. And yeah, you can try it all out. Instead of looking at and watching videos online, you can get your fingers on it.
Yeah, and you can reach out to me as well. I may have demos on that particular item as well too. I might also be able to help you with looking at some of that, or bringing it to your church as well too, for you to look at, and maybe working something where we can allow you to see how it's going to work for you.
On-site demonstrations at churches are very good, because you can see how quick and easy it is to set these up and get them up and running. One of the beauties about our systems is they're actually very easy to use. You don't need a science degree to figure it out. The resources I have on the screen now If you follow through to those, there are many, many, many tutorial videos that you can actually watch and actually give you much more in-depth details on every unit, and even teach you how to use a unit before you even get one.
Yep. Well, I want to say thank you all for coming. We have not seen any questions come in, so want to thank you very much for participating in this webinar. We are going to be posting it on our YouTube page, and I want to thank you, Russell, and thank you also, Dave, for the informative session. It was great. Learned a lot today, and again, I want to thank you all.
Thank you, James.
Very welcome.